The government of Uganda commissions 1,450 oxygen cylinders, that in most stories, in a bulletin today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahabe Kajura, but first, other headlines. Bail reforms expected on card as Museveni summons special NRM CEO meeting. Tunisia faces a growing problem with plastic waste. In our sports today, Uganda overcome Eritrea to maintain summit status. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Africa Today starts with one of our top stories. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has summoned what he has termed a special meeting for the Central Executive Committee, a top organ of the ruling National Resistance Movement Party, a meeting that has been confirmed by party spokesperson Emmanuel Dombo. Our reporter has more. Museveni said in a notice issued on Tuesday that the 7th meeting of 4th Central Executive Committee of the National Resistance Movement organization will be held on Friday, November 5th, 2021 at Entebbe starting at 2 p.m. Whereas the agenda is not clear on what is to be discussed during the meeting, it is expected that the issue of bail reforms is expected to be on the card during the meeting of the top organ of the ruling NRM party. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has been a proponent of the proposed reforms on bail and police bond. The remaining problem is some of the judicial officers and police. Some judicial officers do things that have no connection with reality. In the case of Masaka, so many people have died and suspects are given bail. The right to bail is a fundamental right guaranteed by Article 23, Section 6 of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. The Constitution says that where a person is arrested in respect of a criminal offense, they are entitled to apply to the court to be released on bail, and the court may grant that person bail on such conditions as the court considers reasonable. The president has also in the past expressed similar sentiments towards giving bond to suspects in capital offenses. Moving on, Ministry of Health yesterday commissioned refrigerated trucks, boat ambulances and oxygen cylinders to support the ongoing COVID-19 vaccination campaign and prepare the country for a third wave. We have more on this report.
The ministry revealed that 1 billion shillings was spent on the trucks that will transport vaccines, but it didn't give a breakdown on how much was spent acquiring the 2 boat ambulances and 1,450 oxygen cylinders, oxygen plants and COVID-19 testing equipment it commissioned. According to Health Minister Dr. Jane Acheng, the equipment was procured using the COVID-19 grants from the Global Fund. With the additional trucks, the number of trucks at national medical stores has increased to 41, of which 19 are cold refrigerated for transporting vaccines. Uganda is still struggling with the cold chain system, a factor that has restricted use of Pfizer vaccines in Kampala, Wakiso and Mukono. But national medical stores yesterday announced that they are increasing the number of districts that can use Pfizer. Unlike AstraZeneca that can be stored in normal fridges at around 2 to 8 degrees centigrade, Pfizer requires very low storage temperatures, 7 degrees centigrade, to remain effective. The limited distribution of Pfizer vaccines means people have fewer options, thus affecting the vaccination rate. Government has so far administered 3.2 million, 8 million doses of vaccines it has acquired through donations and direct procurement. The ministry also revealed that the oxygen cylinders will be distributed to national and regional referral hospitals, and others will be installed in car and boat ambulances. Dr. Diana Atwine, the ministry's permanent secretary, said the Global Fund has also provided laboratory equipment for decentralizing COVID-19 testing in the regional referral hospitals.
That is quite interesting. Let's take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. Now, the teachers in the DRC went on strike at the start of October to protest against several issues, including salaries and retirement age. We have more on this report. The World Health Organization's Regional Office for Africa said on its Twitter account that the 8 cases of Ebola, there have been 6 fatalities. Some 573 people who had been exposed to the virus have been identified. The country has had a resurgence of the virus cases this year. During the previous outbreaks in June 2020 in North Kivu, the World Health Organization helped build the capacity of local laboratory technicians, contact tracers, vaccination teams, and reached out to community groups to raise Ebola awareness, as well as put in place an Ebola survivor program. The Democratic Republic of Congo's 10th Ebola outbreak, which lasted for nearly 2 years, was the second largest in the world, and by the time it ended, there was 3,481 cases, 2,299 deaths, and 1,162 survivors. The country's 12th Ebola outbreak, which occurred in and around Butembo, was over the 3 months with 11 confirmed cases, 1 probable case, and 6 deaths. Moving on, the RPG party of former President Alpha Conde held its first conference in Conakry since the junta took power in September. Now, at the conference, the former president of the National Assembly, Damaro Camara, asked the Alpha Conde's release given his age. We have more on this report. Speaking at the conference, the former president of the National Assembly, Damaro Camara, said that their only objective was to release President Alpha Conde given his fragile age. The transitional government is not insisting on a timeline for elections. On the other hand, opposition is insisting elections are held in a timely manner. Damaro Camara further stressed that they consider that the National Rallying Committee for Development, according to the Charter, must be neutral and an arbitrator who must organize the transitional bodies and organize elections in a position of absolute neutrality. The patch surprised most Guineans, even though it was preceded by months of tension sparked by Conde's controversial decision to seek a third term in October 2020. Moving on, African leaders are continuing to push the international community for more financial justice to adapt to effects of climate change. Speaking on Tuesday at the COP26 summit in Glasgow, the head of the African Union, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, highlighted Africa's plight. We have more on this report.
Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said that the Accelerated Adaptation Program in Africa is a crucial mechanism that is expected to deploy a significant portion of $1 billion a year promised to developing countries. Tshisekedi added that while they are discussing adaptation and resilience, they also need to protect Africa's forests and oceans that serve as natural carbon sinks. He stressed that it was time for Africa to be compensated for the good of the planet. The president of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, during his speech said that Africa loses $7 to $15 billion a year due to climate change, which could rise to $50 billion a year by 2040. He added that the continent will need $336 billion to adapt to climate change, and this does not include several $billion needed to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, stressing to all leaders that Africa simply cannot breathe. Africa's 54 nations contribute only about 3% of global emissions, a fact that surprises many people when they find out. The continent is also home to 1.3 billion people.
Away from that, residents of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia are reacting to news of a nationwide state of emergency that ordered them to prepare and defend their neighborhoods amid fears that Tigrayan rebels were heading for the capital. The nationwide state of emergency was declared by the government on Tuesday, a measure that came after several days of reported advances by the Tigray People's Liberation Front rebel group, which is locked in brutal year-long war against Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government. The state-affiliated Fana Broadcasting Corporate reported the state of emergency is aimed to protect civilians from atrocities being committed by the terrorist TPLF group in several parts of the country. Azimero Bahan, a self-employed resident, said that they do not want the fate of Dizzy happen in Addis Ababa, having had some insurgents have entered the capital. We need to identify them, otherwise I do not doubt that what happened in Desi will happen in Debre Bahan and Addis Ababa. Bahan added that they need to identify the so-called rebels since they're the same people they are eating and drinking with and are enemies of Ethiopia. For Tenu Melesi, an accountant, the latest development is troubling and worries him a lot because Desi and Kombolcha, the towns are already claimed by rebels and near Addis Ababa. According to state-affiliated broadcaster Fana, possible restrictions include a curfew, road closures, and searches of anyone suspected of collaborating with terror groups. In a business news today, the Tunisian government has joined forces with local waste collectors, or babechas as they are known, in order to clean up the country for plastic waste litter, which is estimated at around 80,000 tons along the seaside. We have more on this report.
According to Rida Alaya, a plastic collector, this activity is a full-time job where between 60 to 70% of residents of the neighborhood work in the collection of plastics. Environmental associations see recycling as the only way to reduce plastic waste in the country. Previously, the government announced that would ban single-use plastics by the end of 2021. Sami Ben Yahya is the president of ACTAP, an association that works for a cleaner Tunisia. Sami Ben Yahya said that the recycling process helps in control the disposal of waste and contributes to creating green economy and reducing pollution, reducing carbon dioxide emissions, adding that the recycling process requires less energy than producing a new product. Tunisia has plastic crisis because of the deteriorating political and economic situation that has affected the North African country for the last decades. According to Mehdi Jerbi, procurement official at ACTAP, the reasons are many, such as the lack of the budget, a shortage of trucks for waste, in addition to shortage of manpower. Estimates suggest that about 6.8 kilograms of plastics are discarded daily on every kilometer of Tunisia's beaches. The country's shores stretches for over 1,300 kilometers.
Away from business, in our health news today, health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo have confirmed 8 new Ebola virus cases in North Kivu province, according to the World Health Organization. Now, this marks a new outbreak in the country. We have more on this report. The World Health Organization's Regional Office for Africa said on its Twitter account that the 8 cases of Ebola, there have been 6 fatalities. Some 573 people who had been exposed to the virus have been identified. The country has had a resurgence of the virus cases this year. During the previous outbreaks in June 2020 in North Kivu, the World Health Organization helped build the capacity of local laboratory technicians, contact tracers, vaccination teams, and reached out to community groups to raise Ebola awareness, as well as put in place an Ebola survivor program. The Democratic Republic of Congo's 10th Ebola outbreak, which lasted for nearly 2 years, was the second largest in the world, and by the time it ended, there was 3,481 cases, 2,299 deaths, and 1,162 survivors. The country's 12th Ebola outbreak, which occurred in and around Butembo, was over the 3 months with 11 confirmed cases, 1 probable case, and 6 deaths. Now let's turn your attention to our sports news today. Uganda continued with Her Excellency run at the 2021 CECAFA Under-20 Women's Championship, overcoming Eritrea on Wednesday at the Fufa Technical Center in Njeru. Now, in a closely contested encounter, Hadija Nandago and Fauzia Najemba scored a goal in either half to help Uganda to a 2-0 win.
Eritrea, despite not getting so many scoring opportunities, they matched Uganda in several aspects and tamed the hosts for longer spells. Uganda came into Wednesday's game on the back of an emphatic 13-0 win over Djibouti, but they found a different challenge against a composed and resilient side. Uganda kept looking for more goals, but Eritrea held on, and the game eventually ended in a 2-0 win for Uganda. The result means Uganda moves back to the top of the table with 9 points in 3 games, same as Ethiopia, but the former has a superior goal difference of 19 goals. In the other game played on match day 3, Ethiopia defeated Tanzania 2-1, but the game ended in brawls with Tanzania players fighting against the match officials. Burundi, on the other hand, outwitted helpless Djibouti 6-0 to claim their first win. Action will resume on Saturday with Burundi facing Ethiopia. Tanzania will play Uganda while Eritrea will take on Djibouti. It should be noted that the tournament is played in a round robin format and the team with the most points at the end are declared champions.
Well, thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.